A new report has reopened debate in Germany over whether the far-right AfD party should be banned. The document concludes that the AfD, or Alternative for Germany, seeks to undermine democratic principles and human dignity. Germany has only ever banned two political parties, both in the 1950s. And there are fears that efforts to do that to the AfD, a party leading many recent polls, could backfire.
This 1,500-page report could spell problems for Germany's far-right AfD party. It says the party is anti-constitutional and provides a lot of evidence, statements, speeches and social media posts from AfD officials. The report was put together by a non-governmental campaign group called GFF, the Society for Civil Rights.
The
AfD opposes democratic principles by seeking to suppress political opponents, and it opposes human dignity because its racially charged political ideology, much like that of the NPD, establishes different classes of people. The NPD was a far-right party which politicians sought to ban several times. Those attempts failed, most recently in 2017. But the GFF believes its evidence is enough to justify a ban of the AfD. The AfD is unconstitutional under Article 21, paragraph 2 of the Basic Law. Therefore, we believe a valid motion to ban the party would likely be successful. The AfD, Alternative for Germany, has already been declared right-wing extremist by domestic intelligence. And people, including this group of concerned grandmothers, have tried before to start the banning process. Some politicians are now calling for a court review.
Of course, that proceeding in front of the Constitutional Court will take years. And of course, even in the case the party is banned, we have to fight the ideology which is behind it, because that will be still in the minds of many people. So it's only one measure. It's a measure to prevent that party taking the power of democratic institutions.
A ban could only be initiated by either Parliament or the government. It would doubtless lead to long legal battles, both reasons why it's unlikely anytime soon.
So far, the government, and especially Chancellor Friedrich Merz, is not willing to initiate such a process. So I think the political pressure now is growing to act, but I'm not very confident that we will have a majority in the end in the government or in the parliament for initiating that process.
Since the AfD is enjoying growing support in polls and at elections, some think moves to shut it down would be unwise. And some fear a ban attempt that fails could even strengthen the far right.
And DW political correspondent Simon Young filed that report, and he joins us now from our parliamentary studios there. Simon, from a legal and political standpoint, does this study finally remove this lack of evidence argument that has previously hindered lawmakers from actually pursuing such a ban?
Well, Gerhard, the authors, who include several constitutional lawyers, have compiled a lot of evidence, and it's intended to provide a well-founded basis for further debate and perhaps for further legal steps. But the report is based exclusively on information that's already in the public domain, public statements and social media posts and campaign pamphlets and the like. So in that sense, I don't think it does change anything about the evidence available to the courts. But this group, the GFF, the Society for Civil Rights, which says that it's raised money to do this work from donors, is saying that it wants to help focus the debate by putting a lot of this evidence together. And as we've said, they think it meets the standard for banning a political party in Germany, which is, of course, a very high standard.
Now, do you see the mainstream political parties, specifically the CDU, CSU of Chancellor Friedrich Merz, shifting their stance on a potential ban now?
Well, that remains to be seen. The German parliament, the Bundestag, last debated the possibility of banning the AfD in 2025, and there was support for it from members from different parties, but there wasn't any majority. And since the government under Friedrich Merz came into office, very little has actually happened. In the past, the Conservative parties under Chancellor Merz have they've said that the evidence put forward by the intelligence services, for instance, wasn't really sufficient for a ban, and they said they'd rather combat the AfD politically and not allow them to sort of play the victim card and claim that they'd been treated unfairly. It's worth also saying the other government party, the Social Democrats, they do have a sort of process for coming to a conclusion about whether they should apply for a ban, but that moves pretty slowly as well, and we've seen pretty little action in the last few months.
Have the AfD reacted at all?
Well, yes, they have. The Stefan Brandner, who's one of the deputy leaders of the AfD, he sort of dismissed this, saying that he can't see any basis for it, really. He said that a lot of it was based on sort of AI, and he thought it was just another attempt to attack the AfD. So far, the party doesn't seem to be all that rattled by this renewed talk of possibly banning it.
Now, the critics of an AfD ban often warn that it could be perceived as a democratic emergency brake, if you will, that might radicalise the party's base and voters further. How are the risks of a failed attempt at a ban being seen in political Berlin?
Yeah, well, it's complicated, isn't it? You have to weigh up whether banning a political party, in this case a party that has been democratically elected and is in the national parliament, whether that protects democracy overall or damages it. The argument in favour of a ban, one that you hear from politicians as well, is that, if a party is so full of anti-democratic ideas, is committed to spreading hatred, then, that is poisoning democracy and needs to be stopped. And they often also mention, of course, the example of history making the point that the Nazis, too, were democratically elected to office, also with their discriminatory rhetoric and policies out there in the open. But, of course, they should have been stopped, too.
DW's political correspondent Simon Young there reporting. Thank you, Simon.